I guess you should go with Alex. I guess you should go with Alex. I guess you should go with Alex.
Wow, who put this microphone in the middle of a McDonald's? If there's two things you need to know about me in the context of this exact video, it's that I'm on a gluten-free diet and I've had to drive long distances for a living over the past couple years. And as anyone who's done interstate travel can attest, you're gonna be eating a lot of fast food. And before you fuckers ask, I do in fact have celiac disease and thus need to be extremely careful about trace amounts of gluten, especially because you don't want to be having a sudden massive shit attack in the middle of a highway. So I said to myself, I should share this knowledge with the world so weirdos who go on diets for clout won't embarrass themselves by ordering something poisonous on their next excursion out in public. Whenever that might be. Now, Wikipedia has a list of USA-specific chains in this nice little categorical list, so I'm going to be following that same basic structure. Some of these are going to get into the nitty-gritty of restaurants I'm more familiar with, some of them are going to be overviews of the general category. So let's get started with... Okay, this format has actually already screwed me, because when it comes to gluten, this genre is I've already written the intro and the conclusion though, so let's just fucking wing it. There's really two forms of quick Asian food you might have luck with, and that's Chinese takeout places and supermarket sushi. Quick noodle places like ramen and pho are out there, but I've tried going to a lot of those and found no properly non-glutinous options. Your mileage may vary depending on where you are, but I've never had any luck. Even if they use rice noodles, generally you're going to run into the great hidden enemy of this category. Soy sauce. Maybe that statement is giving you the wrong impression, so let me just nip this in the bud right now. This has nothing to do with plant estrogen. The issue is, unless you're shilling out for premium soy sauce, most of the stuff on the market is produced using wheat in addition to the fermented soybeans. That means literally anything that has a sauce on it is suspect, and everything else is mildly suspicious as well. Even in dishes with white sauce, they're liable to flour their meat before cooking, and I've just generally had hit or miss results. My recommendation is to just avoid these places altogether.
I guess you should go with Alex.
As for supermarket sushi, you are liable to get better results there. I would avoid the spicy varieties unless you can talk to the chef. Don't stalk the chef, as a lot of places will put tempura flakes in their mix. Of course, rolls that have a brown sauce in it are out of the question. Anything else, you're probably not going to get hit. Now, whether or not you're going to get sick just from eating cheap raw fish is another question entirely. But you knew what you were getting into there, you dirty little ocean boy. Oh, and if you see those little packets of gluten-free soy sauce, I would steer clear unless they're specifically tamari. Maybe my taste buds are just ruined from years of only using this brand, but every other kind I've ever tried has tasted like absolute garbage. I spilled water on my shirt. Now, before anybody freaks out, no, there isn't any hidden gluten in coffee. You can suck that shit down till the cows come home and only have to deal with the normal amount of diarrhea that would entail. It's really easy to find a good barista in any town you fall into, and obviously I recommend doing that if you can. But for the times where you're going to be fading fast in the middle of nowhere with 5 hours to go on your drive, likely your only option is going to be one of the massive fuck-off chains. Starbucks is fine for a milk and a shake, and they have a good selection of dairy-free options if that's a concern. But obviously, if you're trying to cut down on sugar, you're at the wrong place. Only ever get an ordinary cup of coffee here if you're absolutely desperate, because that shit is sub-gas station tier slop water without the granulated sugar bits in. As for the food, try to find breakfast somewhere else. All their little sandwiches are pre-made, and I don't see them adding a wheat-free option anytime soon. Obviously, the cookies are out of the question, and those little sous vide eggs they make are among the worst foods I've ever tried to eat in my entire life. Maybe you'll get lucky and they just happen to stock some hippies or something in their little snack section, but don't count on it. Dunkin', on the other hand, has exactly 2 breakfast items that I've eaten all around the country without issue. Their little hash brown bites and the bacon snack thing. Keep in mind that both of these are basically being dumped onto the same grill or toaster that they use to heat all of their bread. So if you're somehow even more sensitive than I am, this might not work out for you. But I've personally never had an issue. Maybe I didn't notice because of the rapid consumption of latte that always coincides with eating these, but you might just be alright. The non-dairy options are similar to Starbucks, except that their coffee isn't the worst drink in the world, so you don't necessarily have to go with the ultra sugar options if you don't want to. Yeah, that's basically it. Chicken. Now, as a rule, you have to be careful of all wing places. Often a small coating of flour is put on them, even if you don't explicitly have breading on there. For big general chicken places, unfortunately, you're not going to have a lot of luck. Some people are going to be heartbroken here, but we have to rip this bandage off now. KFC and Popeyes? Completely out of the question. I'm sure this is also true of other chains I haven't eaten at, like Bojangles, but even though both the former places offer naked chicken options, neither one is gluten-free. A lot of the sides from both are listed as being okay, but are you seriously going to go here just to get some applesauce and green beans? Now I know what at least 13 of you are going to say, but Andy, you fucking shit, you fool. The best part of frickin' KFC is the mashed potatoes, dummy! Come on, that has to be gluten-free, it's just potatoes that are mashed. And you're right, you're absolutely right. The potatoes are gluten-free. You know what's not gluten-free? Gravy. Now, there is a big chicken elephant in the room. Not you. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Get out of here. It's Chick-fil-A. It's the elephant's Chick-fil-A. I don't know if it's obvious from this video alone, but I'm not particularly straight or particularly cis. So for reasons you've probably heard already, I've never exactly tried to seek this restaurant out before. Despite their claims of trying to move away from donating to homophobic organizations, they were still doing it as recently as 2018. And of course, this cockfucker is still CEO and is definitely still personally giving money to some bullshit. But hey, they offer gluten-free buns, and this is YouTube. If I'm gonna get anywhere on this platform, I've gotta sacrifice my moral compass. Yep. Thank you. All good? Kitchen not gluten-free. Some items have gluten. That was the most disgusting bread I've ever eaten in my life. Alright, time for another bandage rip. All those cheap, iconic burger joints, your McDonald's, your Burgers King, annoying Twitter bitches, Checkers. Yeah, all of those are out of the question too. I'm not necessarily saying that because none of them offer gluten-free buns. You'll see later that's not totally necessary. But on the meat patty side, you're gonna get a ton of cross-contamination on the griddle, even if you order without a bun. And really, have you ever tried to eat one of those things without the buffer of a bunch of sugared bread on it? It's disgusting. Also, this isn't totally consistent, but when I have tried to do this, they tend to not put the condiments on the burger. So unless you have some cool guy packaging it who's gonna throw a little mayo packet in there for you, you're gonna have to eat this burger dry. Fries are also out of the question, even discounting places like Checkers that batter their fries like a bunch of fucking assholes. See, anywhere that has breaded fried items like tendies or onion rings are gonna be frying that shit in the same oil. I'm sure anyone who's tried to eat at one of these places before has had one of those times where you get like a secret chicken nugget in your fries. Yeah. You can see the problem here. No, if you want a gluten-free burger, you're gonna have to go to a more primo place, like Smash Burger or Shake Shack. In my experience, any of these places are going to have an abundance of gluten-free buns, and if not, they usually will do one of those lettuce wrap situations for you. Only go for that if no other options are present though. While it's by far the healthiest way to eat a cheeseburger, it's also the messiest. These places also sometimes have nothing fried and bread on the menu, so you're free to eat as many of the french fries as your little heart can handle. Ultimately though, the best place for gluten-free burgers is Five Guys. They never have buns, so you're gonna have to deal with the ketchup hand in the middle of your workday in front of all your cool and attractive coworkers, but that's fine because they're also very careful about cross-contamination. And by that I mean if you tell them the wrap is for allergy purposes, they make sure to cook your burger away from the, the buns, and they change their little gloves. They also have the good Coke machines and the big grease bag. Okay, I know there's probably a big shining beacon of fast food that you clicked on this video primarily for, but let me talk about Tex-Mex generally first. If there's one region on Earth that has the most consistently gluten-free and fucking delicious food, it's definitely South America. I've been to a couple countries down there since my diagnosis, and not once did I get sick, and not once did I have to deal with, like, gluten-free flour tortillas or some other bullshit. In the US, it's a little less consistent, but even if the taco stand you're currently berating doesn't have soft corn receptacles, at the very least they'll have a hard shell you can eat. That reminds me, Taco Bell. Now, you're probably thinking, great, hard shell tacos are good to go. That means I can eat at literally everyone's favorite shit factory, no problem. And again, you're right. The hard taco shells are perfectly safe to eat, as well as several other items on the menu, like the Power Bowls, or the non-supreme chips, or the beans. You know what's not? The ground beef. I've had conflicting reports about this recently, but I know for a fact that at least a couple years ago, they were just straight up putting flour in their taco seasoning. These days, it's no longer listed as an ingredient, but it does say it still contains oats. That's a little more complicated because while they don't inherently contain gluten, they're often grown around wheat and processed in the same facilities. So unless the bell-bottom boys are specifically going out of their way to use more expensive oats, somehow I doubt this is gluten-free. This is on top of the same problem as other cheap fast food joints where cross-contamination is just going to happen. So really, as much as this might hurt to hear, you just can't go to Taco Bell and expect to be fine, even if you order like a bean on rice. You can still drink Baja Blast though. There's that. The other big Tex-Mex option you might be aware of is the Moe's/Chipotle style, and like Five Guys before it, this is probably your best bet for gluten-free fast food. I've never once had a problem with any of the locales I've tried, no weird seasoning or suspicious sauces or any of that. You don't even really need to tell your server about the allergy, because as long as you're ordering a bowl, they're not going to be directly touching anything that goes into it anyway. So you don't even have to worry about, like, gloves getting wasted. Obviously stick with the bowl and not the burrito, but I feel like that's pretty obvious. So, as a New Yorker, I understand the pain. I know the first thing you thought as the doctor came in to break the news was, how in the fuck am I going to live without pizza? You might have seen a gluten-free option at your favorite local place, but just don't do it. Anyone who's ever made a pizza New York style will understand why I'm saying this, because the process means they're just gonna be flour flying fucking everywhere. No matter how careful your local dudes are, even if they have a little pizza stone specifically for the prepackaged crust they're using, there's just way too much risk of contamination. I wouldn't even walk into a place if it was too small. Every time I've tried this option, I've gotten sick. From the tips of Vermont to the depths of the Florida swamp. This is not a good idea. Now this goes especially double for Chicago style. Okay, look, stop, all right? Just fucking calm down. Chicago style is fine. If you like it better than the New York slice, I'm not gonna argue with you, but hear me out, okay? Basically, every gluten-free pizza is going to be thin crust personal style. Without the ability to develop gluten in the dough, you're just not going to want a thick crust on these things. Chicago style and thin crust do not make good bedfellows. The sauce to crust ratio is just all wrong. So any small place is a no-go. Obviously, the big shitty brands like Pizza Hut or Racist Boy don't even bother trying to offer a gluten-free option. So where can you turn? Well, there's two places I've seen pop up recently that try to apply the Chipotle model to pizza production. And both, in my experience at least, take the allergy thing very seriously. That's Pizza Rev and Blaze Pizza. If you order a gluten-free crust and say it's for allergy, not only do they change their gloves, but they also use ingredients from separate containers, and they do all they can to eliminate any points of contamination. I don't know if they make the dough fresh in these places, but they do make sure it's in a place that's far away from the front prep station. So great, right? You've got plenty of locations, they're open relatively late, they're fast enough to grab for lunch while on the road. That's perfect, right? Well, it would be if the food itself didn't blow fucking chunks. Blaze is a little better than Rev overall, but I must be truthful here. Never once have I gotten food from either of these places that was better than just okay. Their sauces aren't great, their meats are gross, their vegetables are vegetables, and the gluten-free crust themselves are disgusting. I normally try to be charitable when it comes to baked goods because, fuck man, being able to make bread with no gluten development is literal dark magic. But these crusts are just not good. Either we have the chewy, tasteless cardboard of Rev or the soggy weirdness of Blaze. So if you want a quick pizza on the road, you're pretty much fucked. And that's it. I could have talked about sandwich places, but I think you can figure out why you shouldn't eat there on your own. And this script is already like 3,000 words. The ultimate conclusion is don't go on a gluten-free diet unless it's literally killing you slowly. Maybe one day I'll do a video about like casual dining places, because those are sometimes open past 10 p.m. Or I don't know, maybe I'll build up enough mental energy to get back to the Azkaban script. Or maybe I'll do something else. I don't know. We like to have fun here. Like and subscribe for more of this, I guess. Thanks for watching. I hope you don't trip on or around stairs within the next 87 hours of hearing this message. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Goodbye. Why are you still watching this?
I command, or I'll find me a hand who will. Lord Stark, you'll do as I command, or I'll find me a hand.
So where can you turn? To water. Drink water, children. You're made of it.